You're listening to The Bible Guys, a podcast where a couple of friends talk about the Bible in fun and practical ways.
Hey, Jeff, say good morning. So Jeff took a bite of a
Kit Kat.
Kit Kat.
And all of a sudden, they're rolling in on
all
us.
of a sudden, Zachary starts the rolling.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. So
Hey, it was a good Kit Kat, though.
It was a good Kit Kat. Hey, my name is Chris. This is Jeff. Welcome to the Bible Guys. And we're going to jump right into it.
Okay.
So Desiree has given us a brand new challenge that she's never done before.
Yeah.
And I kind of like it. And I have no idea how it's going to go. It may be horrible.
Yeah.
It may be a miserable failure.
Yeah. So I was struggling with this one a little bit. And so I asked ChatGPT to help me, and then I'm expanding off of that idea.
Oh, okay. So Jeff, by the way, saw this no more than 3 minutes ago.
Yeah, a minute ago. So I just typed in, give me a random funny sentence to start a story.
Okay. And so this segment is called the No Context Challenge.
I knew I was in trouble.
Wait. I'm going to explain the rules.
Okay.
Jeff shares a random sentence or event with absolutely no context, and then Chris must create a story around it.
I knew I was in trouble when I woke up in a chicken coop wearing a tuxedo and clutching a rubber chicken like it was my lifeline.
Are you kidding me? That's my challenge. Say that again.
I knew I was in trouble when I woke up in a chicken coop wearing a tuxedo, clutching a rubber chicken like it was my lifeline.
Wow.
That's a tough one.
Yeah. So
what's the backstory? Because that's essentially what you're saying.
The backstory is that that's actually a spy.
A spy?
Yeah, a spy.
Oh, you were actually a spy because it's a
me.
It's a I woke up.
Okay,
yeah.
I apologize.
Yeah.
I missed the me. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this one time, I got recruited by the government, and they wanted me to do a secret mission. And I said, well, I don't understand. Why are you grabbing me? I'm just an average Joe. And they said, well, that's the point. You're just in close proximity, and we need somebody. And we assessed the area, and what we assessed based on our observation is you're the best looking, most talented, most athletic looking person.
I see it.
Yeah,
I see it. Yeah.
And so they said, what we're going to do is we're going to give you this secret medicine that's going to take over. So don't even worry about it, because this secret medicine is going to allow you to behave like a spy. And so I said, okay. And they said, okay, here's what you got to do. And they told me we have to infiltrate this farm. And this farm was actually a place where they were holding this secret meeting. And it was so unbelievably, disguised, because after all, who would have a secret meeting on a farm?
Right. That's true. Yeah.
And so then I took this medicine, and I was coming from a ball, like a fancy ball. Uh-huh. So I went ahead and followed the group from the ball back to this farm. So I was wearing a tuxedo. I took this medicine. And then the next day, all of a sudden, it's just light out. I had no memory of what had happened. But all I know is I was in trouble, because I did not know, if everybody was dead or alive, but I was laying in this chicken coop holding a rubber chicken.
Wow.
And then later on, you know what they told me? They told me that I had used the rubber chicken to beat everybody up and subdue them. Yeah.
I was hoping that the secret message or something was in the rubber chicken.
Oh, were you?
I was. But,
well,
I don't know.
I was doing the best I could.
How did you know? How did you know what it was? You just woke up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So after all, that's what the story indicated.
It makes sense to me. So it's the handsome part and the talented part that got you recruited. That's really something,
believe
Chris.
It or not, that was hard.
It is hard
because you said I woke up.
Yes.
As if he had no memory. Right. Of a rubber chicken in a chicken coop.
Right. Clutching rubber chicken.
So it's either two options. Either you're drunk.
Well, as
and you don't remember it.
Yeah, as evil farmers do after a ball. They go back to their farms to plot some kind of evil global takeover.
Believe it or not, have you ever seen the movie Get Smart?
Yes.
Okay, Get Smart.
I used to watch Get Smart, the show.
Yes. And I remember seeing episodes, but you remember Get Smart? They were at this ball at this mansion, right?
Yeah.
And then what they do is they leave there and they go to this, random shack.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's the evil farmers of the world. They're uniting.
Yes.
To take over the world or something, but they have a ball first.
Yes. They always have balls.
So I can imagine, that's why you were wearing the tuxedo?
Yes.
Okay.
Jackie Chan and Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Riveting.
In the movie called The Tuxedo, what did they do? They went to a place where you had to go to a dance, where all the hobnobs, all the villains are, right? Yeah. Then what does he do? He goes to listen.
Have you ever noticed how many balls and parties like that, the big dances and fancy dresses that villains have?
Dude, think about
they do tons of that
every
stuff.
Mission Impossible.
Yeah, there's always some kind of big fancy ball.
Yes,
that's what I'm saying.
Some kind of, yeah.
Okay. Well, that was riveting, Chris.
Thank you.
That was a tough one.
It was tough.
That was a tough on every level.
I think if I would have had maybe perhaps minutes to think about it, I could have told the story better. I was just sort of rambling, right?
Yeah.
But I
liked it.
Okay, thank you.
I was riveted.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So speaking of riveting stories.
Oh.
In 2 Samuel, or 2 Chronicles, chapter 16.
I like it.
Is a riveting story about King Baasha.
Ooh, and Asa.
Invading Asa's territory.
Ooh.
Remember we said it's 35 years, no war.
Right.
Yes. Well, and then all good things come to pass.
Yes.
As do all bad things.
All good things.
Yep. So in 2 Chronicles chapter 16, verse 1, it says, in the 36th year of Asa's reign, King Baasha of Israel invaded Judah and fortified Ramah in order to prevent anyone from entering or leaving King Asa's territory in Judah. Asa responded by removing the silver and gold from the treasuries of the temple of the Lord and the royal palace, and he sent it to King Ben-Hadad of Aram, who was ruling in Damascus, along with this message. Let there be a treaty between you and me like the one between your father and my father. See, I am sending you silver and gold. Break your treaty with King Baasha of Israel so that he will leave me alone. Ben-Hadad agreed to King Asa's request and sent the commanders of his army to attack the towns of Israel. They conquered the towns of Ijon, Dan, Abel-Beth-Maacah, and all the store cities in Naphtali. As soon as Baasha of Israel heard what was happening, he abandoned his project of fortifying Ramah and stopped all work on it. Then King Asa called out all the men of Judah to carry away the building stones and timbers that Baasha had been using to fortify Ramah. Asa used these materials to fortify the towns of Geba and Mizpah. At that time, Hanani the seer came to King Asa and told him, because you have put your trust in the king of Aram instead of in the Lord your God, you missed your chance to destroy the army of the king of Aram. Don't you remember what happened to the Ethiopians and Libyans and their vast army with all of their chariots and charioteers? At that time you relied on the Lord, and he handed them over to you. The eyes of the Lord search the whole earth in order to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to him. What a fool you've been. From now on you'll be at war. Asa became so angry with Hanani for saying this that he threw him into prison, put him in stocks. At that time, Asa also began to oppress some of his people. There you go. Man, Asa,
he's like Solomon here a little bit, right?
Yeah,
at the end,
he makes a mistake. He doesn't go worshiping other gods.
Right,
he just deviates from what he always had done in the past, and that was completely rely on God.
So I'm wondering about why did he react to, what's this guy's name? Hanani?
Yeah. Hanani.
Hanani? Okay. Why did he react to him? Why did he get angry? Why did he throw him in the stocks? Why?
Well, because the phrase exists in English, don't kill the messenger.
Right.
It's because we don't like bad news.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, but okay, so for instance, Asa had heard the prophet last chapter, right? Azariah, son of Oded. He was the one that said, hey, listen, repent, do all these things, turn from these multiple gods. Yeah. And so what does he do? Asa gets totally inspired from Azariah. And now here we have Hanani, whatever his name is. Mm-hmm. He comes over, and it says he's a seer. Which, by the way, a seer? That's crazy.
Yeah, it could have been a prophet. They would call prophets seers.
Would they?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I was wondering about that. But anyway, either way, Hanani has got this incredible message, right? And the message is, hey, you screwed up, and what you should have done is trusted God. And that's sort of a sermon in there talking about we should allow people to challenge us in our lives. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. We should allow people to come up and just say, hey, Chris, I've noticed that you're behaving in a certain way, and here's what's true. and I'm going to challenge you from either a mistake you've made or you reacted poorly to this person. You need to apologize, whatever it is. Somebody needs to call you out, and if they're a trusted friend, this person has a title of a seer, and hopefully it's a prophet.
Yeah.
And if they are, then Asa should have received the news then.
Right.
He should have allowed himself to be challenged.
So Asa, it's not wrong to work channels of diplomacy.
Correct.
Right. So he reaches out to the king who is in Damascus at the time, which is modern day Syria now. And he reaches out to him and says, hey, break off your treaty with Baasha and help me fight him. That in and of itself, good diplomacy from kings. Solomon had great diplomacy. You have lots of kings that figure out diplomacy. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Where Asa gets off track is that is not how he wound up having success in his kingdom. He had turned his people back to God when they go to war against the Ethiopians. When they go to war against what was the other group? This wasn't Algerians. There was another group that he mentions there, the Libyans. Right? Same thing. God, we don't have anywhere to turn, but we don't have anybody but you to trust in.
Yeah.
Right? We don't have anywhere else to turn. And so he had led the people, we only win when God's on our side. Mm-hmm. So this isn't so much like an overt rebellion against God. It just shows a spiritual drift. There was a time he was really on fire, totally dialed in, and the only place he turned for help was God.
Yeah.
And God promised, because God didn't promise, hey, I'll send you some help. God said, I am the help. And so you see now there's kind of a spiritual drift where I'm a pretty clever king. God, I don't need your help on this one. I can handle it.
Well, and let's not overlook the fact that he removed the silver and gold from the temple of the Lord.
Right, the stuff he had dedicated to God.
Yes, that's the real crime here.
Right.
I mean, if you think about it, he probably didn't have he didn't have an excess of silver and gold elsewhere, obviously, because he had to dip into the temple. But he's thinking, okay, what do we have left? Well, we have the silver and gold in the temple. So he sort of desecrates the temple and grabs all the silver and gold to use this as a bribe for the treaty.
Right.
And so, if you think about that, that's sort of blasphemous.
These things were set apart for God. They were holy, and then God, then he used them to navigate his own problem. So he was trying to do the right thing the wrong way.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what happened.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, now that we've taught and we were all serious, do you know where that quote was from? The Libyans.
No.
It's Back to the Future.
Oh, that's right.
Don't you remember
that's right. Yeah. I remember that. Yep.
He goes. They found me. I don't know how, but they found me. Who found you? The Libyans.
Yeah. That's right.
So
I forgot that one.
Yeah. So Asa has blown it right at the end there, and again, he hasn't worshipped other gods, right? Just like Solomon has compromised, but at the same time, he goes ahead and he does these things, and then Hanani, whatever his name is, he says, "You will always, from now on, you will always be at war." This guy has to be a prophet,
yeah,
right? Because he's not just saying, "Hey, you behaved in this way, let me call you out." He's actually saying, "This is now what God will decree." Right? What a fool you have been! From now on, you will be at war.
Right.
So I'm gonna go on a limb here and say,
well, the Notes in Life Application Study Bible call him a prophet.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So Asa is still somebody to be revered and admired.
Sure.
He is still an unsung hero of the Old Testament. He just, falls under pressure and gets scared and thinks to himself, we're going to die unless we get creative.
So there's a note, Life Application Study Bible, there's a whole thing that describes, kind of the character of who Asa is. And it says here, along the lines of what we were talking about a minute ago, God does not condone the idea that the end justifies the means. Right? He is just and perfect in all his ways. People, on the other hand, are far from perfect. That a bond can exist between a loving and merciful creator and his rebellious creation is a great miracle as creation is as great a miracle as creation itself. As a king, Asa came very close to being good. He traveled a long way with God before getting off track. His sin was not so much deliberate disobedience. Oh, that's what I just said. His sin was not so much deliberate disobedience as choosing the easy way rather than the right way. That's what he did. He chose the easy way rather than the right way. When the when the odds seemed impossible in the battle with the Ethiopians, Asa recognized his need to depend on God. Following that victory, God's promise of peace based on obedience spurred the king and people to many years of right living. But Asa had to face a tougher test. Years of animosity between Asa and Israel's king Baasha took an ugly turn. This lasted a long time, where Baasha, even though inside of Judah there was peace all the time, Baasha was always causing pressure and problems, right? He was a bad guy. Baasha, king of the rival northern kingdom, was building a fort that threatened both the peace and the economy of Judah. Asa thought he saw a way out. He bribed King Ben-Hadad of Aram to break his alliance with King Baasha. The plan worked brilliantly, but it wasn't God's way. When God's prophet Hanani or whatever confronted Asa, he flew into a rage, jailed Hanani, and took out his anger on his people. Asa rejected correction and refused to admit his error to God. His greatest failure was missing what God could have done with his life if he'd been willing to be humble. His pride ruined the health of his reign. He stubbornly held on to his failure until his death. Right?
Yeah.
That's the issue. It's not so much that he overtly sinned against God. It was that he decided to do the easy thing rather than the right thing. That first promise from God is, if you keep me first, I'll keep giving you victory and prosperity. That's what he said. And then he doesn't. He goes and relies on another man instead of him.
I was wanting you to finish it.
Oh, go ahead.
Because the application turns, it says, does this attitude sound familiar? Can you identify justifying the means? Such a belief leads to sin and failure. The stubborn refusal to admit failure due to sin can become quite a big problem, because it can make you spend time rationalizing rather than learning from your mistakes and moving on.
Yeah.
You know what I actually think? I think I'm starting to need reader's glasses.
Oh, yeah. Well, you skipped part of a sentence there.
Yeah, I was having a hard time there. The lighting is bad in here, but I think I am going to start to do that, because this writing is really small.
It is small.
But you don't have any problem.
But it's really powerful.
With the reading glasses.
I can read it up close. I can't see far away.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
We're at that age, aren't we?
Yeah. Getting old, dude.
Ugh.
That's okay. It's our age that helps bring wisdom.
That's right.
That's right.
Wisdom, hey?
Wise.
Give
That's
me my
right.
glasses. I had mentioned, I think it was yesterday's podcast or maybe the days before. Remember we talked about the priests? He says, you don't have real priests.
Right. Yeah.
And he says you need to have a real religion. This was I'm really bringing something up, because for you and me, this was only like 30 minutes ago, 45 minutes ago.
Yeah.
For our listeners who watch daily, this was either yesterday or the day before. You know what I wanted to say is you know what it reminds me of is people who get ordained online.
Oh,
when a church is technically legally a church, but it's really not a church.
Right.
Right. So for years and years, and I think, and I'm just randomly bringing this up because we have a minute or two. So for years and years, God gave the ability or the responsibility of the church to marry people. Right. And so, separation of church and state. So now it's boat captains and judges, right? They could marry people. But the church it's always been on the church side of things. It's always been held like, a pastor will be the one to control, who they marry.
Yeah, because
right?
a Christian is asking for God's blessing on the marriage.
Yes.
And so they're coming in to God's leaders and saying, hey, would you give God's blessing to our marriage? Yeah.
And so consequently, the church would sometimes say, hey, we're going to require marriage counseling. We're going to require this. We're going to require this. In order to have God a part of your wedding, then you got to jump through the hoops sometimes of what the church decrees. And then, and so I guess people didn't like that. They're like, wouldn't it be great if you could have God a part of your wedding and be married in a religious fashion and yet not have to deal with the ridiculousness of some churches? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go online. We're going to establish and create a church, because it is easy to say we're going to create a church, but they didn't really create a real church. They created a church for the sole purpose of selling the rights to be an ordained minister. Because, dude, you're an ordained minister.
Yeah.
In order to be ordained, what did you have to go through?
Well, I was ordained at the end of my Bible college time. So I'd had to have graduated, and then we had to go through an ordination council where there was the challenge of, theology and biblical literacy and all those things. We had to be able to defend our faith and defend our theological positions to a board of other ordained, highly trained pastors. And then they gave a group approval and then laid hands on us and prayed over us and ordained us.
And was that a private ceremony, or was that public in front of people?
That was public.
In front of how many people?
Yeah. The defense was private. Just with others that were getting ordained. The ordination was public, and there were 700 people there.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So here, my ordination was very similar, exactly what you just described, in front of about 400 people. And so, and it lasted an hour and a half, right? And so, you were just absolutely held accountable to receive ordination. So, therefore, you're an ordained minister. So, you have the right to perform a marriage, right? It's like an honorary doctorate, right? Like, you can be called doctor just because you donated a bunch of money to a college or university, but you didn't earn the title doctorate. Anyway, I want to bring that up because I had that thought. When Jeroboam allowed people to be, ministers, but they really weren't ministers. Oh,
sure.
Right. So anyway, that's it. Right. I just wanted to mention it.
The idea of that ordination thing isn't so much about jumping through hoops as much as it is like the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 14. It's in a passage. So if you remember, chapter 11 and 12 start talking about spiritual gifts. Then chapter 13 is all about love. God says, oh, hey, wait a minute. Let me pause while we talk about spiritual gifts, because people want to fight about spiritual gifts all the time. So, hey, don't forget, it's really all about love. And that's the most powerful thing. But then in chapter 14, he pivots back to spiritual gifts again. He's talking specifically about tongues and miracles and prophecies and things like that in the church. And he's talking about being careful with those things because sometimes lost people are in the service and you don't want to confuse lost people, right? Just because you're indulging in the joy of using your spiritual gifts. And then there's a phrase there that says the prophets are subject to the prophets. He's saying you can control this. Some people say, oh, with your spiritual gifts, you can't control it or whatever. And Paul's saying, no, you can. You can control what you say and how you behave, right? And then it says the prophets are subject to the prophets, meaning those who have certain spiritual gifts are the ones who acknowledge and ordain the others who are claiming they have it, right? And so that's the idea of ordination, is those that have gone before us and have been affirmed by the ones that were before them. Yes, these people do have the call of God in their life, and they are capable carriers of the knowledge and the information and the Spirit of God to lead the people. Right. Then that's just being subject to the ones before us, the ones before them. And it's making sure that we have a purity to the line of theology and teaching and training. Yeah. That's the idea behind it, as opposed to anybody being able to go and fill out a form online and get the legal right to be able to do a wedding. That's not the same. Right.
Ordained by, quote unquote, a church.
Right. It's not a real ordination. It's just jumping through a hoop so that you can be able to legally do a wedding. Right. That's a legality versus an ordination. It's not a real ordination.
So when somebody comes up to me in the lobby and they just don't understand any of that because they don't understand the premise. Right. And they're like, hey, I went online. I'm an ordained minister like you. Yeah. I'm like, no. Okay. But anyway, listen, I'm going to bring it around full circle. So you talked about the subjects being subject to prophets being subject to other prophets. That's what Asa missed. He missed allowing those who are in authority, in spiritual authority, to give him accountability. Right. So if
100%, this Hanani comes in and goes, "Hey, dude, I got a message from God," and he's like, "I don't want to hear from God anymore." Right. Which is an astounding response.
Astounding, and throws him in the stocks. Yeah. So there you go. It seemed like a random thought, but we brought it back.
And then he was so grumpy about it. Yeah. That he oppressed his people from that. He was a good king. Right. His kingdom was so good, people were leaving Israel and coming down to Judah because God's blessing was on them. Then he fades in his commitment to God to the point where finally he doesn't seek God's help. He goes and diplomatically tries to get help from a king, uses God's treasures to pay off this king. Hanani confronts him on it, and he gets mad, imprisons Hanani, and persecutes and oppresses his own people at the end.
And he's really mad at himself.
Yeah, man. It's amazing. The fact that you were on fire for God a year ago or 5 years ago does not carry through to today. Every day. The Bible says his mercies are new every morning, but that means my commitment to his mercies need to be new every morning too. Right. You have to have this ongoing commitment to a long-term relationship, and that's something that has to be cultivated. Just because you planted seeds 5 years ago doesn't mean you're going to have a harvest today, right? You have to cultivate that field. You have to cultivate the relationship with God. And that's what you see is he did early and he wasn't late in his life. And so he shifts from being a great king to an oppressive king. Yeah.
Well, hey, that's our time for today. So hopefully we will see you tomorrow on the Bible Guys.